In the heart of the vast African savanna, nestled between rolling hills and the winding path of the river Nkosi, lay the ancient village of Oboko. This village, home to the Mokele tribe, had thrived for generations, its people known far and wide for their deep connection to the spirits of the land. The villagers of Oboko were proud of their heritage, a rich tapestry of customs and rituals that honored the ancestors and celebrated the natural world around them. But among the many stories whispered by the elders, one tale stood above the rest, a tale so steeped in mystery and fear that even the bravest warriors shuddered when it was spoken of. This was the tale of the ebony tree. The ebony tree was no ordinary tree. It stood alone in the deepest part of the Nkosi forest, a place so dense with vegetation that sunlight barely pierced through the canopy. The tree's trunk was massive, its bark as black as the deepest night, absorbing all light and reflecting none. Its branches reached high into the sky, as if trying to grasp the heavens, and its leaves shimmered with an unnatural silver glow. The villagers believed the tree was cursed, a relic from a time when the world was young and the spirits of the earth were still learning the ways of man. No one dared to venture near it, for it was said that the tree had a hunger, a desire to consume the souls of the living. Despite the warnings, there was one among the Mokele tribe who was not content to live in the shadow of fear. Jabari, a young hunter known for his courage and unmatched skill with the spear, had heard the stories of the ebony tree since he was a child. But unlike others, he was not afraid. Jabari was driven by an insatiable curiosity, a burning desire to uncover the truth behind the legends. He had always been different, even as a boy. While other children played games and chased after birds, Jabari would sit quietly at the edge of the forest, listening to the sounds of the wilderness, feeling the pulse of the earth beneath his feet. As he grew older, his curiosity only deepened. He became an expert hunter, tracking animals with the precision of a predator, but his heart was never truly in the hunt. His mind was always elsewhere, wandering through the stories of the past, seeking answers to questions no one else dared to ask. And so, when the day came that he decided to venture into the Nkosi forest and find the ebony tree, no one was truly surprised. The elders tried to dissuade him, telling him of the many who had gone before and never returned. But Jabari would not be swayed. On the day of his journey, the village gathered at dawn to see him off. The sky was painted with the first light of day, and a thick mist clung to the ground like a shroud. Jabari stood tall, his spear in hand, his eyes fixed on the path ahead. His mother, a wise woman who had raised him alone after his father was taken by the river, placed a hand on his shoulder. Her eyes were filled with worry, but also with pride. "Remember, my son," she said softly, "the forest is alive. It watches, it listens. Be respectful, and perhaps it will show you mercy." Jabari nodded, knowing that his mother's words carried the weight of generations. He embraced her, then turned to face the forest. The villagers parted to let him pass, their expressions a mix of admiration and fear. As he stepped into the shadows of the trees, the world of Oboko seemed to fade away, replaced by the silent, brooding presence of the Nkosi forest. The journey into the forest was more difficult than Jabari had anticipated. The undergrowth was thick and tangled, the trees towering overhead like silent sentinels. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, and the only sounds were the rustle of foliage and the distant calls of unseen creatures. Jabari moved with caution, his senses alert, but he was determined to reach the ebony tree. As he ventured deeper, the forest seemed to close in around him. The trees grew taller, their branches intertwining to form a dense canopy that blocked out the sun. The path became more treacherous, with roots and vines snaking across the ground, threatening to trip him at every step. Hours passed, and Jabari began to feel the weight of the journey. His muscles ached, his throat was dry, but he pushed on, driven by the same curiosity that had led him here. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Jabari reached a small clearing. The air here was different, still, almost oppressive, as if the very atmosphere was holding its breath. In the center of the clearing stood the ebony tree. It was larger than he had imagined, its trunk wide enough to encircle 10 men with outstretched arms. The bark was smooth and cold to the touch, as if it had been carved from stone. The leaves, shimmering in the faint light, seemed to whisper secrets as they rustled in the breeze. Jabari approached the tree with a mixture of awe and trepidation. He could feel the power emanating from it, a dark energy that seemed to pulse in time with his own heartbeat. He reached out to touch the bark but stopped short, his hand hovering just inches from the surface. Something in the back of his mind warned him to be careful, but he brushed the thought aside. He had come too far to turn back now. Taking a deep breath, Jabari pressed his hand against the tree. The moment his skin made contact, a jolt of energy surged through his body. It was as if the tree was alive, its essence flowing into him, filling him with a strange warmth. But the warmth quickly turned to pain, a searing agony that shot through his veins like fire. He tried to pull away, but his hand was stuck, held fast by an unseen force. The carvings on the tree, which Jabari had barely noticed before, began to glow with an otherworldly light. They were ancient symbols, older than any language he had ever seen, and they seemed to pulse with life. As the light intensified, Jabari felt a presence, an overwhelming sense of being watched, not by the forest, but by something far older, far more powerful. A voice echoed in his mind, a deep, resonant voice that seemed to come from the very earth beneath him. "Why have you come, young hunter? Why do you seek the forbidden?" Jabari's heart raced, but he forced himself to respond. "I seek the truth," he said, his voice trembling. "I want to know what lies behind the legends, behind the fear." The voice chuckled, a sound that reverberated through his entire being. "The truth, you say? The truth is not for mortal men to know. The ebony tree holds many secrets, secrets that were meant to remain hidden." The pain in Jabari's hand intensified, spreading through his arm and into his chest. He gasped, struggling to keep his composure. "Who are you?" he demanded. "Why are you bound to this tree?" The voice sighed, a sound filled with ancient sorrow. "I am the guardian of this land, bound to this tree by a curse long forgotten. Once I was a great spirit, revered by your ancestors, but in their greed and folly, they sought to harness my power for themselves. They trapped me within this tree, using forbidden magic, and in doing so, they cursed this land. The forest became a place of darkness, and I was left to wither away, forgotten by time." Jabari listened in stunned silence, the weight of the spirit's words sinking in. He had always known there was more to the legends than mere superstition, but this was something far beyond his understanding. "Is there a way to break the curse?" he asked, hope stirring within him. "There is," the voice replied, "but it comes at a great cost. To free me, you must offer a part of yourself, your very essence. Only then will the curse be lifted, and I will be free to return to the spirit world." Jabari hesitated, the enormity of the decision weighing on him. He thought of his village, of the people who had warned him against this very path. He had come seeking answers, but now he was faced with a choice that could change everything. If he agreed, he would lose a part of himself forever, but he would also free the land from the darkness that had plagued it for generations. As he stood there wrestling with his thoughts, the forest seemed to grow quieter, as if the very trees were waiting for his decision. The voice in his mind was silent, patient, giving him the space to choose. Jabari knew that whatever he decided, there would be no going back. He would be forever changed, one way or another. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Jabari made his choice. "I will do it," he said, his voice steady despite the fear that gnawed at him. The ground beneath him trembled once more, and the carvings on the tree flared to life. A blinding light enveloped him, and he felt a searing pain in his chest. It was as if his very soul was being torn from his body. He cried out in agony, but the voice whispered soothing words, guiding him through the pain. As the light consumed him, Jabari felt his consciousness slipping away. His thoughts became disjointed, his memories unraveling like threads in a tapestry. He saw flashes of his life, his mother's smile, the thrill of the hunt, the laughter of his friends. But they all seemed distant, as if they belonged